Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating and honestly highly controversial Bengali source that takes a deeply pragmatic, almost ruthless look at modern dating. We're not talking about your typical fairy tale romance here. Instead, the source material actually takes the political philosophy of Niccolo Machiavelli and applies it directly to relationships, framing them as a high-stakes strategic battlefield. It's a stark, completely unfiltered perspective on exactly how men should vet partners. And, whether you completely agree with it or not, the framework it presents is incredibly structured and really thought-provoking. So here's our roadmap for this playbook. We'll be covering 6 rigorous directives. 1. The Machiavellian philosophy. 2. Beyond physical appearance. 3. Respecting leadership. 4. Testing for hidden chaos. 5. Fear and power. And finally, 6. Guarding your empire. Let's jump right in.
Starting things off with Section 1, the Machiavellian dating philosophy.
The source kicks off with a pretty stark warning. History does not forgive the man who chooses the wrong partner. In fact, it compares this mistake to literally destroying your own empire without firing a single shot. Because in this absolute binary worldview, there is zero gray area when it comes to choosing a partner. On one side, you have the beneficial woman, someone who actively acts as a strategic asset to upgrade your life. But on the other side, the destructive woman. She might seem beneficial on the surface, but the source argues she's actually a disguised parasite slowly draining your resources. Basically, a partner is either actively building you up or they're actively destroying you.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, looking beyond physical appearance. Machiavelli himself famously noted that everyone sees what you appear to be, but very few actually know what you really are. And here the explainer uses this incredibly intense metaphor of polished poison. It argues that men absolutely must look past the surface. Think about it. If a partner is stunningly beautiful but lacks morals, intelligence, and just sells her loyalty to the highest bidder, she isn't a queen, she's polished poison. The source insists that a man has to evaluate a partner's true character and those hidden behaviors, like, how she treats the waitstaff or how she talks about people when they aren't around.
So, what's the actual game plan here? The crucial point is that a man must act like a general surveying a battlefield. You don't just passively wait to be chosen or hope you stumble upon a good partner. You have to actively execute these 3 steps. You select intentionally, you test rigorously, and you observe silently. You're watching how she behaves when she thinks no one is watching at all.
I love how the source leverages this classic quote to drive the point home. Wise men do at once what fools do at last. It's urging men to spot those red flags early on. There is absolutely no point in waiting until you are completely trapped in a destructive dynamic to finally realize your mistake. You have to stop being the fool who ignores the early warnings and only takes action when the damage is already done.
That brings us to Section 3, respecting leadership and boundaries.
Now, this tackles the highly polarizing concept of masculine authority. The playbook lays out very specific red flags that require an immediate, no-questions-asked retreat. If a partner views male strength as a threat, if she constantly competes for leadership, challenges your plans without offering any actual solutions, or disrespects your discipline, the advice is to walk away immediately. The core argument is that trying to fix or save someone who exhibits these traits is just going to bring a chaotic, destructive energy into your life that will ultimately ruin your own discipline. The source actually asks this directly. Is love enough to fix disrespect? And it gives a hard, flat no. The source asserts that so many men just hand over their power, and it's usually wrapped up in sweet-sounding words like compromise or partnership. But according to this Machiavellian view, those concepts are very often just traps designed to strip a man of his authority. In this framework, you cannot negotiate power in a relationship. You either hold it or you lose it entirely. What's truly fascinating to me here is how the source takes the most famous Machiavellian rule of all, that it is safer to be feared than loved, and applies it straight to modern romantic power dynamics. It describes love without respect as smiling slavery, where a man just becomes a puppet king trying to keep the peace. True respect, it argues, actually comes from a healthy fear of loss. Basically, if she doesn't fear losing you, she is never going to respect you.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, testing for hidden chaos.
The source points out something pretty undeniable. Anyone could play nice when they're being showered with attention, gifts, and constant entertainment. But the real, genuine test of a person's character happens in the quiet, unstimulating moments. So the ultimate question becomes, how does she handle boredom? According to the text, a peaceful partner can sit quietly, maintain her patience, and focus on building things up during downtime. But on the flip side, the chaotic partner absolutely cannot handle a lack of constant stimulation. She picks small fights, she creates drama out of thin air just to feel important and alive. The source describes this type of partner as a literal time bomb, warning that when real unavoidable hardships eventually show up, her inability to manage her own emotions will completely destroy your peace.
Moving on to Section 5, Fear, Respect, and Power.
This covers what is probably the most provocative concept in the entire source material, the ruthless dynamic between your availability and her fear of loss. The source takes a massive hardline stance with this quote, "Whatever is available for free has no value." It asserts that a man who is always available, who begs for love, or who tolerates bad behavior just hoping to win some affection is eventually going to be utterly despised by his partner. It claims it's just human nature. We do not value what we do not fear losing.
To combat this, the source offers these strict Machiavellian rules for maintaining your power. Rule 1, you must never, ever reward bad behavior with your attention. Rule 2, you have to be genuinely willing to walk away at any moment. Rule 3, sometimes you literally need to withdraw your presence to remind her of your value. And above all else, never negotiate for respect. Under this philosophy, respect is something you command by demonstrating that you value your own boundaries and self-worth way more than you fear losing her. Which leads us to our final strategic phase, Section 6, guarding your personal empire. According to the source material, this right here is the ultimate goal of a man's existence. The core argument is that a woman should never, under any circumstances, be the center of a man's life. Instead, your absolute focus has to remain entirely on building and protecting your empire. Now, this empire isn't necessarily a physical kingdom, right? It represents your life's purpose, your goals, your strict discipline, your resources, and your time. A partner is simply meant to be an asset to this empire, not the reason it exists in the first place.
Look at this visual because it perfectly captures why a partner who distracts you from your goals is viewed so incredibly harshly by the source. The betrayer encourages your laziness, maybe tells you to skip the gym, mocks your discipline, and wraps it all up as love or just relaxing. But the asset? She acts like a coworker in your discipline. She challenges you to rise, enforces your boundaries, and demands that you stay sharp. Distracting you from your purpose isn't framed as affection here. It is framed as an active betrayal.
And here is the final, ultimate test of loyalty. The source asserts it's not about how a partner acts to your face when everything is great. It is entirely about who she is when you are completely absent. Does she respect your rules, defend your reputation, and reject outside attention when there's no immediate reward for doing so? If she strays the second you turn your back, the source warns that she will ultimately betray you when you are at your absolute most vulnerable.
To sum up the stakes of all this, the source warns men to relentlessly guard their resources, their time, their energy, their purpose, like a king protecting his castle from invaders. Machiavelli always warned kings to secure their gates, because kingdoms fall when outsiders gain unchecked access. In the modern dating context, this means a lack of standards and boundaries is essentially inviting total destruction into your life.
Ultimately, this explainer forces us to confront a highly structured, emotionally detached perspective on dating. It strips away all the fairy tale romance and replaces it with cold, hard strategy. So it leaves us with this really provocative question to ponder. Are you building an impenetrable fortress, or are you leaving the gates wide open for your own destruction? Does this Machiavellian armor serve as a necessary defense mechanism in today's modern world, or does it ultimately just create a self-imposed prison? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.